joining us on today's episode of Tax Matters. My name is Pearl Namaka, and with me is
Chiamaka Ohaochi.
Yes, the year 2019 has really taken off. Offices are fully opened, children are back in school, and of course, taxes are being paid 24/7.
But then at the end of 2018, so much took place in taxation kingdom that we were not able to share with you before the year ran out. So on this episode of the program, we are going to bring you up to speed on those events that shaped the end of 2018 in our world. For example, on Wednesday, 12 December 2018, the Joint Tax Board held an induction ceremony for new members who joined the board at various times in the last 2 years. In the evening of the same day, a send-forth dinner was organized in honor of retired members of the board.
On December 14, 2018, the Executive Chairman, Federal Inland Revenue Service, Mr. Babatunde Fowler, held an interactive session with members of the Oil Producers Trade Section of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, at which matters of mutual interest were ironed out. And on Thursday, the 20th December 2018, the CITN, for the second time in a row, presented practicing licenses to qualified practitioners. Welcome once again. We begin with the story of the induction of members of the Joint Tax Board.
Mr. Babatunde Fowler, Executive Chairman, Federal Inland Revenue Service, is by virtue of that position, Chairman of the Joint Tax Board.
We have come to meet together to discuss issues on how the Joint Tax Board operates. Everyone who has been a member of this Joint Tax Board has been through this induction ceremony, including myself. And we believe that it's an avenue and a venue where we can exchange ideas and make sure that with a common vision, with a common understanding, as we group together, we'll be able to build capacity within the Joint Tax Board. The Joint Tax Board was developed to ensure uniformity and also provide an avenue for an exchange of experiences and ideas in the area of revenue generation.
A lot was said about the high turnover of members of the Joint Tax Board.
In the year 2015-2016, we had the highest turnover of chairmen in the history of Joint Tax Board. An average, I believe, about 22 chairmen were changed in that period.
It's a special privilege that at this moment we are having this opportunity to be conducting this exercise. The last exercise took place 2013, and from there to now, we've had a turnover of over 50-something chairmen that have dropped out. Why I said it's a privilege is that we have today, as chairman of the Joint Tax Board, the longest serving and high-ranking member of JTB, by virtue of the fact that he was the immediate past executive chairman of Lagos State Internal Revenue Service. While still serving, he was appointed the executive chairman of Federal Inland Revenue Service, and by that then, chairman of the Joint Tax Board. He's been serving on JTB board for the past 14 years and 4 months running.
Several papers were presented to bring members up to speed with regards to their duties and obligations as members of the Joint Tax Board.
The Joint Tax Board is not part of FRS. Joint Tax Board is not a tax authority. It has no taxing powers. By composition, it is clear that the Joint Tax Board is not a federal body, but a national body. Because it's made up of states and the FRS. It is not a federal organization. It's a national organization.
The Personal Income Tax Act was reviewed in 2011, and major highlights of that amendment are some of the things we would like to look at here. All in all, 35 sections of the personal income tax were affected. For the very first time, the president, vice president, governors, and their deputies became taxable under the personal income tax. That happened only in 2011.
This paper I'm about to present is looking into the future and is on leveraging on ICT towards enhancing tax administration, the role of JTB and other stakeholders in a digital era. With the popularity of e-commerce and the digitalization of global business climate, it is no longer a choice for businesses to key into technological trend to ensure that they remain competitive. Under this emerging digital era, tax administration cannot afford to be left behind. While the use of ICT in the operational process of tax administration has reached advanced stages at the federal level, the same cannot be said of majority of the tax authority. It's also true that while a number of states have taken measures to introduce automated processes in their various operations, the acceptability to such initiative is quite low.
Still on ICT, Mr. Fowler spoke on the imperatives of data sharing between and amongst revenue authorities.
And I hope all chairmen clearly understand the power in this data share. I had mentioned it at the last GTB meeting. We first analyzed businesses, enterprises, partnerships that had turnover of $1 billion, annual $1 billion minimum for 3 years, meaning that they had $3 billion go through their bank accounts. We found out close to 6,000 either had no tax ID or were not paying any taxes if they had a tax ID. Now, those businesses also reside not only in Abuja, they reside within your states. So if they don't have your state ID and they don't have a federal ID, that means they're not paying taxes, not likely paying taxes in your state. That was the first leg. The second leg is that we've started with turnover of 100 million to 1 billion. We're still analyzing those, and the numbers are unbelievable. I mean, from all the indications, we are going to get records of close to 130. So far, we've done about 16 banks for records with close to 134,000. I believe that as we substitute the accounts, freeze those accounts, we'll be able to give you some of the names. You check whether they're in your tax net or not. Like I had said earlier on, it's now time for us to exchange tax databases maybe in January of 2019.
On the evening of the same day, members of the Joint Task Board, who had since moved on to other duty posts, were sent forth at a dinner and award night. Point of the evening was the presentation of long service awards to 7 former members who had served state and country for 5 years and above. Mr. Charles Theophilus of the Federal Road Safety Commission is one of the retiring members of the JTB.
What memories are you taking away from the Joint Tax Board?
I started in 2001 and I've been in and out all through. One, I've learned a lot. I'm not a tax person, but I came into JTB by virtue of the fact that FRSC has some products we give to states that we are members with the states. We have the driver's license, we have the number plates. So JTB has actually helped us manage ourselves and the states in this direction. It has also opened my eyes to see a lot of states. I didn't go to Bayelsa until I was in JTB for the first time. I went to Calabar for the first time in JTB, and we've been able to work together very well and had made our work very easy for us in FRSC.
How far and how well has the JTB come in tax administration in general?
Well, we'll have 2 very intelligent and very lovable people. The chairman is fantastic. He had been in JTB himself, been chairman of Lagos State Board of Internal Revenue, and the secretary too was Nedo as chairman of Edo State. So they brought their wealth of experience, and it has really helped how the business is run in the JTB. It has brought cordial relationship, and people who know their job, and so they have helped bring up JTB to a level that's quite appreciable. We don't have frictions. We only have problem solving, and they help solve those problems amicably.
Moving on Friday, 14th December 2018, the Executive Chairman, FIRS, led a team of top officials of the service to a consultative meeting with members of the All Producers Trade section of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry.
We are getting invitation from various companies asking our experts to come and talk, and we felt that rather than going to various companies several times and over, why don't we all gather in the same hall? We talk about these new regulations, people ask questions, and then we provide clarifications.
The Executive Chairman set the ball rolling with his opening remarks.
First of all, I'd like to appreciate your contribution to the Nigerian economy. We see taxpayers as very important stakeholders in both the economy and, of course, in terms of revenue generation. For avoidance of doubt, a lot of people believe that we're just out to collect as much revenue as we can. But I assure you that we will only try and collect the revenue that is due to government, and not one kobo more and not one kobo less. Now, in terms of the multiplicity of audits, you've got to realize that the Senate and the House of Representatives have oversight functions over the Ministry of Finance and, of course, the Federal Inland Revenue Service. Now, they do receive petitions. Some petitions may have no basis, some petitions may. But from time to time, you'll find out that they will ask for certain investigations to be carried out. And of course, we're obliged. We have no choice than to do that. In some cases, the Revenue Mobilization Commission had gone around doing audits. And I think in some cases, they actually had some people from EFCC with them. We've taken that issue up with the presidency, and I think we are now working together. In short, that no agency that is not mandated to do assessments can do any assessments when it comes to tax. And if they come to verify certain information, please cooperate with them and give them the required information. But of course, the payment will still go to the federal government through the FIRS.
Head of the OPTS team, Mrs. Modele, spoke on behalf of the OPTS.
On ITAS, we've worked with the FIRS for 2-3 years. It's actually beneficial to us as well, because when we engage fully in what we call e-filing, it's time-saving for us, and it's time-saving for the FIRS. It's still engaged with some bottlenecks expected, and I think it's more of a Nigerian thing in terms of infrastructure we have on ground, but we believe that it will actually work.
On the knotty issue of the decommissioning regulations,
the decommissioning regulation has a very good history, and we've worked with the FIRS in the time past, and we're still willing to work with the FIRS. It cuts across our partners and our regulators, NAPIMS, and particularly our production sharing contracts, where we are mandated by law to create a decommissioning fund. But of course, as tax practitioners, you have to incur an expense before you can deduct it. That's a fact. And so by the time you're decommissioning a well, the assumption is that your production is virtually hitting zero. So the question comes, first, where do you get the funds to restore the site to what you actually met it before? And then secondly, where do you deduct the expense? So that explains why we're really interested in the decommissioning regulation, and our main concern is deductibility. The receipts are of great importance to us, sir. It's really, really of great importance to our head office reporting, because we use Swift Advice presently to submit details of taxes paid to our head offices, but their own tax authorities, most of the time, they insist that we bring receipts. The withholding tax credit notes, it's been difficult, I must confess, managing our vendors. Some of them don't even believe we've remitted. and we can wear their shoes in terms of the impact on their working capital.
Still from the OPTS.
One thing that's very key to us is certainty. Once there's certainty in the law, it reduces the amount of complexity or the amount of guesswork or decisions that affect investment decisions, which are quite critical. So again, just to appeal to the FRS that from our perspective, the way you should see it is taxpayers who value so much certainty, because we deal with very large holding companies who have opportunity to invest their funds depending on how favorable the locations are. So we're talking about billions of dollars, and someone is telling them, well, we're not sure what direction this will go. We're not sure if the rates will change materially. We're not sure if this incentive that we thought we had will disappear.
Mr. Fowler responded.
The main issue here is the issue of receipts for foreign currency payments, transactions. For all transactions now paid in the local currency, you can actually download your own receipts, print your own receipts, confirm your receipts, including withholding tax receipts. But to make sure that you do have accurate records and information on foreign exchange transactions, we will be issuing receipts from Abuja, from the headquarters, which you can utilize until we eventually computerize the system.
On withholding tax?
Once you remit the withholding tax on behalf of a vendor, they're supposed to remit it with a schedule that has the vendor's tax ID, name, etc. Once any taxpayer gives us information as to the contact person who has the authority and an email address, once you pay on that tax ID, you get an alert. You get an email with a link. When you click on that link, your receipt comes out, you print it out, and can verify that receipt with your smartphone. When it comes to the issue of utilization, we have uploaded from the year 2012 to date. Initially, we only had 2018, 2017, 2018, but now we have gone back 6 years. So if they're even any unutilized, they can be accessed and utilized. Now, for your vendors, as long as you remitted the withholding tax with a schedule, name, and a tax ID, it will be on our system, so they can verify directly from us. What we actually advertise is that within 45 days of deduction, you as a contractor will know whether withholding tax credit has been credited to your tax ID.
And this clarification of audits.
Multiplicity of audits, Chairman has explained, but clearly there are a few things we do. When a return is submitted, we do our desk review. And desk review relates basically to the current filings. Management directive is that there should be no further question beyond the review of that current filing. If anything goes beyond that, we told them refer it to audit. So if we get any letter from any of our offices requesting you for data's 2 years, 3 years, please get back to the head office. It can only be when we are carrying out an audit. An audit is done just once, in 2 years, once in 3 years. That's the kind of thing we do. But we have cases and complaints where our officer, for whatever reasons, send letters out. Instead of doing a desk review, just concentrating on the return that you filed, will now be requesting for 2, 3 years, and Chairman has directed that that should stop.
We are sure you agree that 2018 was indeed a successful year for tax administration in Nigeria, what with the landmark 5.32 trillion naira collection by the FIRS. Figures are still coming from the states, but we are sure that they all did well. As you can see from the stories we have shared with you today, success was achieved by adequate planning and hard work. It is our hope that 2019 will prove to be better. In all of these, the tax practitioner, the licensed tax practitioner, is most important.
On Thursday, 20 December 2018, the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, CITN, for the second time in a row, issued practice licenses to qualified practitioners.
This is the only institute legally known under the Constitution of Nigeria to regulate the practice of taxation. And one of the ways by which you do that is to give out license to those who are qualified, who have been certified to be qualified to have the license to practice.
Today represents a landmark in the journey of your professional practice, as you will be officially given the instrument with which you can hold yourselves out as true, tried, and tested practicing professionals.
I want to also reiterate that as you are issued your practices license and sealed today, you should be professional in your dealing with clients and not engage in acts that would tarnish your image and that of your institute.
And then the reason for the event.
It is my pleasure to inform you, Mr. President, that 161 of our members applied for the practicing license of the Institute. They have all fulfilled the conditions set by the Council. I hereby recommend that they should be issued with the practicing license certificates, license, and stamps and seals of the Institute to enable them to practice as chartered tax practitioners.
I do solemnly swear that I shall always comply with the provisions of the Institute's charter.
The 161 men and women were thereafter presented with their licenses, seals, and stamps. The Vice President of the Institute spoke on the essence of the epochal event.
For CITN, we have two categories of members. We have administrators and we have practitioners. If you are an administrator, you cannot practice. But if you retire from being an administrator, you can set up your own practice. Now, for practicing members, you cannot practice taxation in Nigeria. You cannot put yourself out as a tax practitioner in Nigeria unless you are a practicing member of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria. So the ones that you have seen here come, they have been a member for over the years. They have gained practical experiences from wherever they were, and now they want to go out there and put themselves out as practitioners of taxation. So they must, as a matter of our charter, must receive our practicing license and stamp and seal to be able to practice. The essence is when you affix your stamp, your seal, and your signature to a document, you are liable. Everything that you have to do must comply with the ethics of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria.
And then from the new licensees.
What does this mean to you?
What this means is that for now, the Institute now has licensed us as tax practitioners to go out there to enforce the tax laws and to practice as tax practitioners. With the certificate now, what it means is that legally, you can now practice as a tax practitioner in Nigeria.
It's a certification authorizing me to practice tax in Nigeria.
It means a lot to me because as a tax practitioner, if one is not properly licensed, he hasn't got any rights to practice tax in this country. So with this certification today, I'm really glad I can now practice with confidence. I have the backing of my institute for me to do my job.
We recall that on 27th September 2018, the first set of 41 licensees were presented with certificates, stamps, and seals. Now, with this new set of 161, there are more than 200 foot soldiers out there licensed and authorized to practice taxation.
As we always say, do not try to navigate the field by yourself. Employ the services of registered licensed tax practitioners. That way, you can be sure to keep your nose dry.
Let's do this again next week. Same station, same day of the week, same time of the day. Remember, personal income tax returns for pay as you earn are due by the end of January. Of course, for direct assessment, it is March 31st. Have a beautiful week ahead.